Alright, so I'm Nick in Nefarious, and we're gonna be playing Camille versus Yi, or better I should say, we're gonna analyze a game I played as Camille versus a high gold Yi. Now, I have so far only, in quotation marks, reached mid-diamond, but I'm still looking to climb to Master Tier this season, and I will show you the road I take there and how I abuse the enemy junglers, right? So we'll just put on my perspective here and turn on Fog of War, and I'll just explain my thought process as I completely try to obliterate this Master Yi. So, we're gonna start out on red buff, nothing unstandard there, and just look right now, what do you see? Alright, if you paid attention to the minimap, you should have noticed that the bot laners are not in their lane, and top and mid are definitely in their lane, right? Let's just cross out mid, by the way, but yeah. So, top is in their lane, bot is not, so I know he probably started red buff. Since I can't really get to the raptors easily, right, I'll just walk right through mid lane. It's a little bit over-aggressive. I will be looking to invade Yi in his top side. Now, what some Yi players do is they're afraid of getting invaded on their second camp, if I start blue, for example, and they'll go topside immediately. Now, that doesn't really make a whole lot of sense. I would expect him to go raptors first, in this case, or even go Krugs with pixel wards, right? But he might not go for that option where he goes Krugs. If he does, I'll just be forced, perhaps, into vertical jungling. And what I might try to do in that case is just go through mid lane, gank mid lane, and then go to the bot side to meet Master Yi there. That's my early game plan. Now let's see what happens, right? So, first component, so I'm trying to cover all my options, right? Whether he goes bot or top, I have a plan. Boom, he's actually spotted in top. Now what do you do from here? Because this is actually very important. You can't just E onto him. You have this bomb plan, You want to try and see where he goes after you do this, and try and match where he goes. Usually his escape route is through the bottom, so that's where you're going to bomb plan. This isn't the perfect bomb plan. I want it to be over here, right? I don't know if he has Q up. It's a little bit iffy. If he flashes now, then I wouldn't really get that much out of this play, right? I would just get his wolves, and he would still have enough of a health bar to just go clear his other camps, maybe even go for vertical jungle, really. So, now I go to my wolves, and what do I do afterwards? Well, first of all, I walk towards mid lane. I want to, again, either gank mid lane, get scuttles, right? But here I see Yi again, so I just pick up the free kill. And this is something you might say, well, this guy's just an idiot. Well, first of all, I'm not saying that I'm playing, assuming that this is a high-level Yi player, right? This is totally worth, in my opinion. Like, burning a flash and an ignite and pulling someone out of their lane, that's free Camperino for me. And you will see very soon how I'm going to take advantage of that. So remember, this is, yeah, I died. Honestly, who cares? Right? She has a red buff and she has no summoners. I'm going to be able to gank that for sure and get my red buff back, hopefully. So, I just start on my red buff because blue buff because I have 2 smites and I don't want to be left behind on the level 3 for so long, right? Like, just go to the scuttle immediately. I thought, you know what, I'll just take the scuttle and then go into river. So it's a little bit of playing around with tempo, playing around based on whether I have smite or not. Here, my first intention was to look at raptors and see if Yi was there, but as you can see, Annie is in a very, very dangerous position. Hold on to my E until she starts running so that I can actually hit her here. And boom, right, connects. And I get my doubles back, or at least I get my red buff back. So, I go into the raptor camp, and now there's 2 possibilities, right? Either Yi went into his top side and started jungling on my side of the map, which would be very, very risky, right? Because he doesn't know where I'm going, right? Or he's on his Krugs and he's gonna move all the way in here. So I'm looking to, on the one hand you could say that I should hold on to this, but here this guy shows up from top side, and I guess if he walked in right now, I simply would have had to smite the camp. I would have been able to do that. I wouldn't have been able to kill him though. So think of that what you will. I'm kiting this camp. I see Master Yi coming here, right? We still have Fog of War on, so you can see when he enters vision. And he doesn't dodge with Alpha Strike, but I also have a red buff, which he doesn't. And here, this might be a little bit strange. First of all, I didn't track the Annie's respawn timers. That's something you can get screwed over by. And secondly, I didn't really see if I could, like, chase him down, right? Like, he still had his W. Look at this, boom. Like here, if I chase him, he has W, and he's gonna come from here. Right, she doesn't have flash, but she can eventually just walk up and zone me out. So, always nice to pull these laners away a little bit. Look at this, like here she already loses 1 CS worth of experience. That's important, right? If I do this 7 times and she loses 1 or 2 minions 7 times, that's 2 full waves eventually. So, every time you pull a laner out, as long as she can do it 100% safely, right? 100% positive risk reward, then you're making great sort of, you're helping out your laners even though you're aggressing the jungle, right? So you're not really just abandoning your lanes and letting them just get hammered. Because you cannot win 1 versus 9 on Camille against HeartCC. That is one of the things you cannot do. You're not a Zed. Even Zed struggles with that. Any champion that wants to 1v9 usually gets shut down the most by HeartCC, right? It's just, how do you avoid it? There's not a whole lot of things you can do against that. Maybe a long-range control mage or something can 1v9 the best. And here you see classic example of just playing out an escape properly, right? Always covering all the options, Eing over here, Eing over there. Just stalling in circles if you accept that you're dead and you just want to, like, take the bomb plant, go all the way into their base. You can really, I've done this. I've had a moment where I actually went for the bomb plant, eat over this wall, and just started cruising through their base and pulled out 3 people for a full wave, and they just lose, again, a full minion wave. That's pretty worth it, if you ask me. So here you can see that I'm not just focused on the enemy jungler. I've made a video recently, if you've seen it or not, doesn't matter, but where I showed you how to just track the enemy jungler. Not a single gank done, right? And in that one, I ended losing a lot of games simply because the laners were too far behind. Here you can see I'm playing to my best ability, so I'm literally trying to play whether I can kill the mid laner or Yi or Vayne. I'll kill anyone who I think is just an easy kill, right? I'm not just targeting the enemy jungler, even though that's the biggest focus, simply because it's in Fog of War, he's busy on camps, that's where, you know, your free kills are mostly, because of your E, right? You can always hop over these walls and just... In the jungle, you're like an assassin, right? Like, you're not really an assassin if you gank someone, it's all telegraphed, while in the jungle, you can literally sit in here and suddenly just jump out and, you know, land all your abilities. Now, this is around the time, if you've watched Skill-Cap's world-class jungle tracking video, you'll have learned a couple of things from that, which I am applying in this video. First of all, just trying to think of the enemy routing options and having an answer to each and every one of them, possibly, right? Otherwise, you just have to take a gamble. That's just the basics of jungle tracking and sort of planning your route, right? And here, the aspect that I'm going to use that was explained in that video here is abusing a lane that's winning and that just hit level 6. Abusing this level 6 power spike. Because Vayne obviously is a lot harder to dive when she's level 6. And as you can see, I'm actually slightly too late here. And I'm still going to do it. So you can see that this information out of these videos, it has to be very, very accurate. Like in that video it was 6:30 and this time it's not. Right? So you can see how sensitive that is. So now I know for next time, oh shit, I actually have to watch out with that. So there you see it, we still get the kill despite Vayne having both summoners and having her ultimate. I tried to make it a really easy kill, but I ended up only casting as 1 summoner. So it was a little bit easier than expected. Obviously my evaluations aren't perfect, right? I'm just trying to abuse general power spikes and whatnot. Alright, so here I don't opt for the Krugs. If you want a full-blown experience-based route, you go for Krugs. I want to maintain tempo. I want to move on the center of the map without being reckless and just not clearing any camps. Like, I want to abuse the fact that I have a Tiamat, that I clear camps very quickly, without actually just completely ignoring that I also have an initiative advantage, right? That I can just move on the map and try and kill people before he goes back into the game. So this is a combination of those two things, right? That's kind of what I'm doing here, trying to combine sort of just being able to clear camps quicker at this point with having an initiative and moving over the map, right? Moving deep. behind enemy lines like this. So there we have our Yi player. Make sure that you ult here very, very quickly to make sure that it can't flash away. And sometimes, if you're lucky, they'll be flashing right as you ult. But in either case, you're going to end up killing them, whether they burn a flash or not. If you wait until they flash, you might not be able to catch up. And you get into a lot of awkward situations where, for example, if the Annie has flash, which she doesn't here, she might be able to flash ult, ignite, and just kill you that way. So you really, really want to take safety here. And as you can see, I am not slowing down, right? And Annie, I saw that Annie used everything in mid. I just killed her ult, right? So I know that she's not going to be of much help here. And I instantly move out into Fog of War, go to take the bomb plant, and jump directly in the center of the wolf camp. Boom. I thought he would be trying to dodge that E, so you can see that I was very safe on that. And there we go. And he's chasing me. And here, you can see I was gambling that I was actually going to meet Yi here, because the last 7 times he's been moving across the jungle with his Annie. So I thought him and Annie would be trying to test me at my blue buff. And this is obviously not a sound play at all. This is just horseshit. That's all it is. Right? Even if I hop over here, I could just, you know, not have the flash, like if they moved along here. So that's bogus play, but there was an idea behind it. And you can see right here, I am living in this guy's jungle. I am just taking a few central camps, buff, and the camps in the middle of the buffs, and the buffs themselves. That's all I'm taking from my jungle. The Krugs and Gromp are almost never cleared here. And that way I'm really, really, really just maximizing how much time I spend in the enemy jungle. And trying to kill the jungler as well as the laners and pull the laners out of their lane. And here you can see again, right? So, whoop. Just by sitting in this guy's jungle, he just tries and walk in here. And whoops, you're already dead. Right? Just a matter of accuracy and consistency, right? I'm not doing anything fancy here. I'm just doing the same thing over and over and over and over again. And some players I've seen, they have a lead and they're like, okay, I'll do Krugs now. And then they miss out. They're like much slower, and eventually they'll miss out. Like Yi just safely clears the camps and just goes to a scuttle somewhere or something, and just survives, right? And just levels up. Now I'm level 8, he's level 5, and this is all because I don't waste any time. So now one important topic is converting to a win. That's not very difficult because all of our lanes won, right? I ganked the highest impact lane. I also ganked, I tower dove the Vayne, and this is a counter matchup. And I ganked bot lane once, and they're just winning on their own naturally as well. So every single lane is winning, and most of them also have had big contributions by me and none by Master Yi. So converting is generally harder when you play like an absolute baboon and only counter jungle. That's what I've been doing with my last few videos, just to show the concept, right? And then you can show conversion a lot better. Here, that's going to be a matter of not inting. If you're very, very far ahead, remember this rule. It's about how not to make big-ass blunders. And you shouldn't play like a pussy, excuse my wording, right? But you should be very, very careful. So here, I'm already thinking I'm going to walk straight away from Rakan and then move over the wall. I'm not going to move towards this terrain because that'll do two things. First of all, it makes it piss easy for Rakan to predict a knock-up over here, right? And secondly, so if any would be moving in, that would mean I eventually die. And secondly, I might even get caught up over here, right? With an ult, which cancels my E, and again I will die. So trying to play this as safely as I can like this. Boom. And just scoot over. And then if you're in Challenger, you might actually get predicted anyway and die, right? So that's where you start learning the specifics, the interactions. And here, as you can see, no time is wasted. Instantly moving in for another gank. These guys are completely over everything. I correctly assumed that Draven had flash. So I actually made sure that I again used the little alt trick just to prevent flashes. Right? That's what I'm doing consistently, right? I'm using the ult before they flash instead of afterwards. Because obviously flash has no animation, you can't respond to it. You have to anticipate it. Again, it's the culmination of a lot of little tricks that some players fuck up, right? There's nothing special about the ult, but then again, you might screw it up. Here, you can see, I know she's gonna take the bomb plant, and if she really wanted to outplay me, she could have maybe tumbled and gotten out, but I correctly predicted she'd just try and fly out of here, and that's it, that's a kill. So now we're gonna get the turret. Teemo stole our red, but let's just keep watching the replay, and here we see, I put a deep ward over here just in case anyone comes snooping by. I know that bot lane is over here, right, along with the Master Yi, just guarding off the potential any coming in here. So here I choose to go for a dive, and look at this. I tried to predict her E, I failed, so now watch my positioning here. Whoop, I walk straight through her, see that? And that's very, very important. I walk straight through her like this, so that once she E's me back, I am actually now in front of her, right? Again, not that complicated, but you can fuck it up, and I see a lot of people fuck it up, right? And there we go. I just make sure, again, using that trick where you space away from someone until your E hits, so that you don't just unnecessarily tank all those hits. You know, just little spacing things that can keep you alive. If I just walk straight into her here, I would have died because of the third auto, and then maybe even an extra auto attack after that. Okay, so we got the inhibitor. Let's just speed through this now. So you can see that at this point, as long as there's no buffs, I'm not even touching any other camp. I'm instantly moving on the map, moving towards this bot lane, making sure I can scout the Yi, for example. And here I'm just poking them down. Like, I'm poking them down for a turret dive a little later on with this cannon. Obviously, I don't think we can kill him unless this Thresh actually predicts a hook. But here you can see he's slowed, he's chunked out, he flashes, and boom, hook hits. And look at how hard they get chunked out here. Even if we can't kill them, this is an easy turret dive, right? So you have to understand that you don't have to choose between either turret diving them when they're over here, or just not ganking, right? You can do a pressure gank even if they're close to the turret with a champion like Thresh, right? Like as long as it's not something that has to commit for an all-in, so usually that means it has a hook or something from long range like that, then this is free, right? And boom. I was expecting a Rakan ult. He didn't get the time to use it, but that's why I flashed away here, to avoid being caught up under turret, and then you can also get Raven flayed, and that's when you can die. So in my opinion, maybe I'm wrong, that's a sound play right there. That's something I definitely didn't screw up in my mind, simply because he didn't press ult. I can't really assume that, right? So Yi comes in there and ints. Again, just use your E. That's just as simple as that. So, I will happily take Krugs if it's the enemy Krugs, right? So this way you can see, even with hyper-aggressive jungling, I'm not drying myself out. I'm not just not taking any ECS. This might have been a little bit ambitious. Look at this play in the replay. Look at this one. So here I can see Thresh behind me. And as you can see, I dodged the Draven knock-up with my ult. But then again, there's not a whole lot of follow-up. Eventually they decide to go in on this, which I don't think is sound. So I can just safely poke them down and just walk away. This is just a play where, again, the Yi just walks and pretends like my E doesn't exist. You can abuse people not respecting how far your E takes you. That's why you are so strong in the jungle. So that was not an entirely sound play, perhaps, right? They could have just kind of back. But then again, we did whittle him down enough for Katarina to eventually just dive him, so that you can see that the way I use my ultimate, I always try to dodge an ability. The three use cases for your ultimate are to hold someone down for your team, for example, right? Like for a Galio ult. Hold someone down to prevent them from flashing, so even if you're solo, right? Slightly amplify your damage, that's sometimes something you can do. And then one of the most common ones is to dodge an ability, right? So for example, against Draven, I didn't really have the potential to kill him, but by dodging his ability and jumping directly on top of him, gives you bonus damage, so I get insane damage from my abilities there. And eventually they do end up dying because of that, right? Even if it wasn't entirely sound, they could have walked away better, right? It ends up working because I'm forcing them to make mistakes, instead of putting myself in scenarios where my weaknesses are displayed, and I am the one to fuck up all the time. I'm letting them do the fucking up. You can control that to a certain extent, right? So here I expected an any combo. You can see this ultimate was about 2 seconds cooldown. So again, you know, it might look silly, but the reason that looks silly is because I have no idea if she has ult up, right? Like, you think anyone in this game can predict that cooldown to 2 seconds accuracy? I don't think so. Someone would literally... Alright, here we have a dive. Let's just look at the dive, right? So you can see I hit the stun. I go on Annie. Right? I noticed that Katarina has turret aggro, so I can just safely stay here. Sometimes it's hard to establish in all this chaos who has the turret aggro. But that determines whether you can stay or not. So sometimes people walk out unnecessarily. That's the last thing you want to do. You need to establish... Even if you don't know who's getting turret aggro, as long as it's not you, right? As long as you're not getting hit with these little bursts of damage, you know that you're not targeted. And that just about concludes this game. We're just gonna see how this one wraps up. Very safe, consistent ending. No real weird dives, no real weird stuff happening here. Just calm and consistent ending the game. 12, 1, and 10. First death being, in my opinion, a value death. So, let's just quickly recap what happened this game. Why did we stomp Master Yi so hard? So we analyzed certain routes beforehand. What if Yi goes red into raptors into wolves, for example, or red raptors blue, right? Then I will be able to spot him. What if he goes vertical jungle? I will eventually, if I don't spot him in his jungle after I clear his blue, for example, then I will be walking through mid and try and meet Yi in my own jungle. Even if he's already cleared a few camps, I will try to just kill him in my jungle. What if he just goes topside? Well, that's why I went topside initially, right? That's the main option that I'm predicting. That is the option where I just ward his wolves and use the bomb plan to directly jump on top of him, so I can already even sometimes get some hits down before I even E him. And then what happens, right? What happens when he goes back? Well, first option is that he's going towards his red buff or his bot side, right? His Krugs and Raptors give him the most experience. Second option is that he just hangs around for a while. So I walk through here to try and gank mid, and if he goes back into his jungle, I will be able to dare to kill him. He does end up going back, so I end up killing him, right? Just constantly put the pressure on him. Put the pressure on Annie. Annie actually killed me on that invade, so what do? The next time I get a chance, right, I will clear my blue, clear Scuttle, look for Yi in his jungle, and go invade. And I will always attain that order, right? I will, unless Annie is already trying to kill Katarina or something, if there's a decent time window for that gank, they're just sitting here clearing a minion wave, I will first establish vision in the jungle, and then gank, right? Because if you do it in the other order, let's say Yi's on his Krugs or something, and I just blatantly go and gank mid, he knows, oh, he's mid, I can go to my blue, or my raptors, or my Gromp, or whatever, right? I can go to the next camp and stay away from Camille. Well, if I have a ward on raptors and he tries to move to his blue because he's afraid I'll invade his raptors, I will know he will go to his blue, right? So, always try and establish vision beforehand, right? So that's jungle tracking, right? That is ganking the right lane, the right snowball, the right lane. Vayne's already getting crushed by Teemo, so ganking that all the time doesn't add much. I just go in for the dive once it's easy, once I'm already there anyway, and that doesn't cost me a whole lot of effort. I can just dive her, right? Low HP, under turret, with a pretty big wave. That's it. Boom. Dive. Right? We just keep doing that. Keep pressuring Master Yi. Dive a laner. Pressure Master Yi. Gank mid lane. Pressure Master Yi. Gank bot lane. Go base. take one camp, or once you have Tiamat, maybe just clear both your boss with the camps in between, and boom, you move on to river, yeah, right? You pressure Master Yi again, you gank a lane. So, that is how you play an aggressive jungler like Camille. I hope you guys enjoyed it, enjoyed the commentary. If you did, consider leaving a like and subscribing to my channel, because I will be making more of this kind of content in the future. And I will see you guys